Well, we are waiting on a couple other people, but we figured we'd also go ahead and get started. We don't want to keep you guys waiting any longer than we have. So I'm going to quickly go through who is on the call, which experts we have on the call, and then we'll kind of go through the buying process. And as an expert's opinion is needed, we'll pass the mic to them. So we're going to start with Chad Helmkamp. Chad is the owner of BWC Lending. He is a mortgage lender, so he's your go-to guy for all things money. Cass Moore is with Goosehead Insurance. He is your guy for your homeowner's insurance, your flood insurance, your automobile insurance, and basically anything you can think of. If you need insurance, he can do any and all of it. Alex Massa, he is the owner of Enitech Appraisals. You will not interact with him directly ever, but he's here to shed light on what the appraisal, like what an appraisal is, and how professionals like himself determine the value of a home. And let's see, we have, who is next? We have, Travis Kep. Travis is the owner of Southern Star Inspections. So he's a general inspector who evaluates the property to let you know, just to provide you with all the information you need to know about its current condition and if there's anything you should be alarmed by. And lastly, we have Deanna Mellis. Deanna is at North American Title. She is their branch manager. Is that right? Okay, great. She's going to explain to you what a title company does and what an escrow officer does and their roles in this transaction, because you'll email a lot with them, but that's about like you'll email a lot with them and you'll finally see her at the very end, but you won't actually ever have to like meet her in person. So it's nice to put a face to the name this early on so you know who she is. I need to share my screen because I have a little bit of a presentation for you. Chad, do I have those rights?
You do now.
Sweet. Okay. Let's see here. It's opened up a little bit. And there we go. Okay, let's minimize that. And I need to do I need a full screen. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Full screen. Can everyone see everything? I can't hear you if you're nodding, but I assume you can see it if you don't tell me otherwise.
Yes.
Yes.
So the buying process is, I mean, it's honestly pretty simple. And the great thing about having an agent and all these other people to help you through it is that they know what they're doing. They've done it over and over and over again. So even if you don't know what you're doing, you have someone to hold your hand and guide you through it. The first step is generally to find a realtor. Some people choose to do the second, but usually it's something you do first. You want to make sure you pick somebody who is, that has experience in the area that you want to live, someone that's knowledgeable about the process, and maybe even, I would even say an agent that works the way you like to work. People that have similar work styles tend to get along and it makes the process a little bit easier. And you want to choose an agent that has strong industry partners. You want to be able to rely on your agent to refer partners to you because you probably won't have time for all those Google searches and Yelp searches to find the people that you need. One thing that you should know is that you need a realtor. If you don't have an agent representing you and you just meet the listing agent to look at properties, or you just swing by an open house, that person represents the seller, not you. So, they're not looking out for your best interests. Even if you have an agent that you're working with and you haven't signed a representation agreement, in Texas, that agent still works for the seller and has to work in their best interest. So make sure that when you do choose your agent, that you get a representation agreement in place that outlines, their obligations to you. Obviously, I want you to choose me. That's why my giant picture is there.
That's the right decision. The right decision.
Yeah. Moving on. The next step is getting your financing in order. You need to, double check your credit, double check your income, make sure that what you're trying to accomplish, you're set up to pull off. If you're not where you need to be just yet, that's okay. You can work on getting there. But usually the easiest way to figure out if you are where you need to be or you're not where you need to be is by getting in touch with a mortgage professional and going through the pre-approval process. They can then tell you, where you're at and what you need to do to get where you're going. One interesting thing that I learned during, the process over the years is that in the event there's anything on your credit report that is, impeding your ability to buy a house, credit repair is not necessarily the way to go. So it's nice to talk to a mortgage lender who has a lot of experience in those things to maybe guide you in the right direction without you taking the actual route of like credit repair. So when you're working on all these things, you want to shop your mortgage rates. Chad is great because he has a lot of different lending partners that he works with, so he can actually find you different deals because he's a broker. You want to work with someone local as well. I like local versus somebody like you can definitely go online and try to get pre-approved through like Rocket or Quicken. They're one and the same, but you might get assigned to a mortgage lender up in like Wisconsin, and if you're working with someone local, you actually have that ability to go walk in their office if you need to. So that's going to ensure you get better customer service. You want to pick a lender that's knowledgeable about the loan process and knowledgeable about the different loan products. There's different products out there, and you want someone that understands them all so that you get the best product for you and get the best, rates and things for your purchase. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass this back to Chad so he can tell you about, what he does and how he's a great fit for you. By the way, Chad is the absolute best mortgage lender ever that I've worked with. He helped me purchase my house and helped me refinance. So he's the absolute best. I can't figure out how to make you the host. Oh, there it is.
Got it.
Found it. There you go.
Got it.
You're hosting.
Beautiful. If y'all haven't noticed, we're learning some things about Zoom every time we do a Zoom call. So, and I notice as you pass it from person to person, the recording goes to that particular person's screen. So that's interesting. All right. Well, thank you very much, Angel. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are correct. You would be right to pick Angel as your realtor. I have the privilege of working with a lot of great people in this industry. Very few are as diligent and as detailed as Angel is. She follows up probably more than any other realtor that I work with. So, and that what's really great about that is it just shows she's on top of it. So she's following every step of the process. And there are a lot of people involved in a real estate transaction. One thing I share with folks that a lot of people don't know, now this is where I think it is really important to have great people on your team when buying a home, is on a typical real estate transaction, there's somewhere between 20 to 30 people involved. And so you're seeing a handful of us here today. There's a whole lot of other people behind the scenes and at all of our various different companies that are involved in the transaction. And it only takes one human being to drop the ball to fall off track. And so you need good people like Angel that are following up on things, making sure everything's staying on track to ensure you close on time. So my name is Chad Helmkamp. I'm with BWC Lending, as she mentioned before. I've been in the mortgage business now. This is my 18th year in the business. I happen to love this business. I met a gentleman last night who was in the mortgage business for 7 years and just quit like 2 months ago, which is sort of shocking because this is like maybe the greatest time ever to be in the mortgage business. But it just goes to show you, but I talked to him, he said, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the business. Well, I fortunately love the business and so can't really imagine doing anything else. And so this is what I do. And what I'm going to do is try to walk you through the home buying process from our perspective. Typically, you would talk to Angel, give her an idea of what your goals and objectives are. Then she's going to direct you to someone like myself. And then the way I handle things is you call me and I have a quick 5 to 10 minute conversation to learn about your goals and objectives. And then we go straight into the pre-approval process. And so I'm going to share my screen and walk through a quick little presentation to tell you what's important. All right. Okay, so I just have this in a little Word doc here. So home buyers. All right, so types of lenders. She sort of touched on this a second ago. There are lots of different types of lenders you can choose from. You have mortgage bankers. Most of those fall under direct lenders, big box banks like Bank of America and Chase, credit unions, things like that. You have mortgage brokers. I happen to wear 2 hats. I'm both a mortgage broker and a banker. A banker just simply means that I close and fund loans in my own company name, but I then sell that loan after we close. So I do sell 100% of my loans to the various different investors I work with. And right now I have about 7 or 8 different investors that I work with. I get called all the time by other investors to sign up with. But the partners I have right now are fine and are priced very competitively. So I don't really feel the need to add. You have portfolio lenders. Portfolio lenders are really when if you're looking at larger homes, like $1 million homes, a jumbo loan is considered a portfolio loan. A jumbo loan would be any loan amount over $548,250. And so that would be a portfolio loan. And then a hard money lender. Hopefully that's not something you ever really have to look into. Hard money loans typically are very high interest rates, typically in the 10, 11, 12% range. Okay. Our lending process. This chart is intentionally sort of like all over the place like this, because that's sort of how the loan process is. There's a lot of things happening all at the same time. Ultimately, I will tell you that, again, that's what I'm here for. That's what Angel's here for, to make sure that you stay on track and that we're doing everything that we need to do to keep you on track to close on time. And that is ultimately my commitment to you, and even more so Angel, because if I didn't close on time, she wouldn't like me very much. And we don't want that. All right. How do we get a mortgage? So we look at three things, and we call it the 3 C's: credit, capacity, and collateral. Okay. Credit is plain and simply just that, your credit and your credit worthiness. Capacity is your income. How much do you make and how much can you afford to buy? And collateral or capital is basically how much do you have to put down. All three of these things matter. Prior to 2008, when the credit crisis occurred, if you had one of these three things, you could have bought a house. Today, you have to have a nice balance of all three. You can't get away with just having one anymore. First and foremost, credit. Credit is by far, I think, the biggest concern that almost everybody has. I think if I have this conversation once a day, I probably have it 3, 4, maybe 5 times a day. Chad, I really don't want you to check my credit because a credit inquiry is going to hurt my score. I get that all the time. And I will tell you, it's easy for me to overcome, because I will just tell you this: without checking your credit, I can't give you any of the answers to the questions that you have. The credit score tells me everything. And as Angel mentioned before, one reason it's so important to work with someone like me is to see if there's anything that the credit needs work. Okay. And oftentimes we do discover things where credit needs work. And at the end of the day, I have a what if simulator. I can say, look, if you pay this down, your credit score will improve. If you pay this off, your credit score will improve. Or maybe you have I have a client right now who had a medical collection, or not a medical collection. She had a collection from her apartment complex that she moved out of. It was $150. It caused her scores to be in the high 600s. I showed her, if she were able to get it deleted, all of her scores would have been in the 800s. So that one collection was impacting her score by over 120 points, and it would have caused her interest rate to be a quarter higher. Okay. And so that's why I always encourage people to go through the pre-approval process. I encourage 6 to 12 months prior to buying, because it gives you plenty of time to work on it if you can. In her situation, she had already found her house, and we're sort of struggling through it because some investors will not allow you to refresh your credit in that short a period of time. Okay. This pie chart shows you a lot of different things about what goes into the score. Payment history is the most important thing. What a lot of people don't know is 1 30-day late can drop your score by as much as 100 points, and it can take almost 3 years to fully recover. So more than anything, what matters most is just pay your bills on time and your scores will hold up well. If this was a really good interactive webinar, I would ask, what is a good credit score? I will just tell you. To qualify for the best of everything, you have to have a 760 or better credit score. For conventional loans, which is a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan, which is really generally what the majority of home buyers want to secure, I would say your score really needs to be a 700, maybe a 720 or better to secure a conventional loan. You can qualify with a lower score. It's just the terms start to be more costly. Okay. And then FHA is a great loan program. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. That score, I typically tell people 620 for FHA, as well as VA and or USDA. Okay. All right, that's good enough for that. And when we get to the question and answer section, if you'll have more questions on credit, I'm happy to address. Okay, so capacity. So what can I afford? And so I finally updated this slide. I've been using a slide that was very outdated for way too long. And so I just chose a monthly income of around $6,500 a month, realistically, because right now the average price in Harris County, or in the Houston area, according to HAR, is right around $300,000. And so in order to buy a $300,000 house, you're going to need to make somewhere in this neighborhood. And I'm just sort of giving you an example. If you make $6,500 a month, if you have credit card payments of $150 a month, an auto payment of $500 a month, your new house payment would likely be in the neighborhood of $2,100 a month. So all of those together total $2,750, which ends up being about 42% of your gross income. And so when you're buying a home, if you read a book about buying a house, it'll tell you that your housing debt ratio should be around 28% and your total debt ratio should be around 38%. And so this debt to income ratio is a little bit high, but it's not crazy high. And usually we can get people approved with debt to income ratios all the way up to 45% on a conventional loan. And on an FHA loan, we can go even higher than that in some cases. Okay. Collateral capacity, this is down payment. So as of today, FHA requires 3.5% down. USDA and VA are our last 0% down loan programs. So if we have any veterans on the call, the VA loan's a phenomenal loan at 0% down and rates are terrific. Conventional loan, you can put as little as 3% down. And then what we tell people is to budget for an additional 2 to 3% for closing costs and things of that nature. And so that should help hopefully give you a good idea of what to expect for closing. But here's a good example. So if you bought a $300,000 house, and you took out an FHA loan at 3.5% down, your loan amount would be $289,500. And you can see your down payment plus your closing costs, $10,500 versus about $10,000 there. And then you can negotiate a seller credit for up to 3%. Well, FHA, you can do even more than that, but we don't have that much in closing costs. So I just did 3% here. So technically you could get in a home, a $300,000 home for about $11,500. Now, Angel will talk a little bit about the market probably more later. Getting seller contributions in this environment is not all that likely, but it still happens from time to time. All right, and this last chart, this just kind of gives you a synopsis, and I'm happy to send this to everyone. This kind of gives you a synopsis of what down payment's required. It'll tell you the credit score. Here this says FHA, you can go down to 580. I will tell you, if you read online, you can probably find lenders that will go below that. I personally don't recommend people buying a home with credit scores below 620, simply because the terms of the loan are so much more costly. And everything is more costly when your credit scores start falling below 620. So I try to work really hard with my clients to get their scores at least above 620. And if you've got a credit score above 620, then usually FHA, VA, those types of loans work really, really well. And then if your credit scores are great, then again, I'm always going to try to encourage people to go with a conventional loan because it's better for the long term. Over to the right, you'll see the maximum loan amounts for each kind of loan product. FHA and conventional, VA and USDA don't really have maximums. Personally, I will tell you, I'm not very familiar with USDA loans. I live in the city of Houston. I don't live in rural areas, and this is really meant for rural areas. I've priced a few in my career, but I've never actually closed one because I just don't work in those markets. And then this is my team. I will tell you, I could not do what I do without my team. My team is incredible. Marissa and Haley are the ones that really do all the heavy lifting. And so they make me look good. And so if I'm not available, they're easy to reach. And so you're always welcome to call them. I'm going to share one more thing with you real quick, and then I will turn it back to you, Angel. Where'd it go? Hold on a second. Sorry, I was had the wrong screen up. I was trying to buy some GameStop real quick. Just kidding. All right, here we go. Okay, so I felt this slide was pretty important. Okay, so in December of 2018, we were closing people on homes at rates of 4.75%. Today, I put in here 2.75. I will tell you, we've been locking people at 2.5 and 2.625. Some people have been buying their rate down to 2.375. But I just really wanted you to see that the difference in your monthly payment here. You've got a $311 difference in your monthly payment from the end of 18 to now. So although prices are going up, your affordability is much, much higher now than it was then. So rates are incredible. It's an unbelievable time to buy a house. And so if you're able to or in a position to, I would highly encourage it. And that is it. Angel, take it away.
Can I share my screen? Can you
Yes,
make me a host again, please? Thank
on
you.
it, on it, on it.
Well, Chad is doing that. I'm just totally amazed that the same house purchased 2 years ago would cost someone $300 more a month than it would today just because of interest rates. I'm glad I refinanced, basically, is
right.
all I can say, because I bought my house about 3 years ago. When you're considering your lenders, and the reason to keep Chad in mind is he's great. He's great for the first time buyers, especially, and he's great for everyone, but the first time buyers, because he's one of those people who likes to educate and inform. So if you like having the information and the whys, and then he's a great resource for you. Because if you're like me, you don't like just to be told what to do. You want to know why you're doing it. So he'll take the time to sit down with you and explain all that when the time comes. So it looks like I am back to being a host. So I'm gonna share my screen if I can find what I'm trying to find. There it is. And this is great. Okay, so we talked about the pre-approval. So the next step is to start the search. You have probably already been looking around online, and you may already have a list of homes that you're interested in. And there might be a house that you've been watching for a few months, even just waiting to see what's going to happen with it. You maybe even seen some houses leave the market. It's likely that you've probably been using a few different resources. Perhaps you're a Zillow person, maybe you're a Redfin person, or maybe you actually are using har.com. These resources should probably all have photos, video, maybe even 360 tours. You might be using Google Maps. If you aren't super familiar with Houston and you're not sure exactly where you want to live, I would be using Google Maps, and I would be searching for nearby things, right? Restaurants, grocery, etc. Or even like walkscore.com is really useful because it'll show you what's in the area. If you are already using har.com, fantastic. If you aren't, I strongly suggest you do, because that is where the realtors input the data first. So you're going to get the most accurate, updated listings in real time. All of the other sites, like once something is posted to har, it trickles down to about 70 other syndicate sites, and it takes time for those sites to get the data, and it takes even longer for those sites to get the updates, like a status change from active to pending, or a price change. So har.com really is your, the entry point, and that's where you're going to get the most accurate information. And they even have an app. So if you weren't aware of that, they have one. You can download it on your App Store or in your Google Play Store, and you can, do the same thing you were doing before, but on a different app. And when you choose to use that app instead, things that you like and favorite will get shared with your realtor as well. So while you're searching for homes, there's a few things we should talk about. Chad mentioned the market, and how I might be like, seller's credits, not sure. The market in Houston has been fairly strong since, I would say, like 2012, 2013. So it's leaned towards a seller's market. It hasn't quite ever dipped back down to a buyer's market since, the economic collapse of 2008, 2009. It's gotten close to stable, but it hasn't really dipped back into buyers, and it's kind of consistently stayed in the seller's market. Right now, with interest rates being as low as they are, people are wanting to buy, and the numbers of buyers has increased significantly, but the numbers of sellers has not increased. So we're seeing a supply and demand issue, and when we have more demand than we have supply, it's a seller's market. So we've entered more and more of that. So you may or may not experience, the opportunity to have a seller contribute to your closing costs. We'll definitely always try, and we'll give you advice and counsel if we don't think it's feasible. The market being the way it is, with not as many options as we saw last year or the year before, it's really important to keep in mind the 80-10-10 rule. And we use this rule all the time regardless. Even if it was a buyer's market, we're still going to use the 80-10-10 rule, which is if you find a house that has 80% of what you want, 10% of what you can fix, and 10% of what you can live with, that's a house you should make an offer on. And the reason is, until you become a multi-billionaire and you can go buy yourself 100 acres and build the exact house you want, you're not ever going to find the house that has everything, but you might be able to make it into the house that has everything at a later date. So always keep that rule in mind. It'll make this search a lot easier and a lot less frustrating. Once we find some properties that you want to see, Whether I found them or you found them, we'll keep a list and we'll put it together. We can start scheduling showings. And the way that we'll usually do that is we usually, hop in the car and go out and look at properties. Right now, we're seeing things a little bit differently. Things have started to normalize a little bit since the beginning of the pandemic, but things are still, there still is a virtual component. So we're seeing a lot of buyers look at the video and 360 tours before scheduling showings and kind of eliminating some properties that way. Whereas before you would go look at everything that you're interested in because you can't really tell if the photos are realistic. But now with the video and the 360 tours, especially, you get a really good feel for the space and if those photos are a little wide or how everything kind of flows. We will still schedule actual in-person tours if that's something that you want. I do it all the time. I don't think I've had one client who preferred doing like a FaceTime tour. Like everybody wants to go look at houses, and that's completely reasonable. So we are showing homes and we'll schedule tours. We'll go look at some homes. And then once you find one that you want to make an offer on, I will do a comparative market analysis or a CMA. That is where I'll take comparable properties that have sold recently. We usually go back 30 to 90 days and look at other properties that are similar to the property you want to make an offer on to see what they sold for. And then we'll use that data to give you a range where you should make your offer. So we'll advise you on how you should make your offer, and then you'll instruct us on what you want to do, and we'll write the offer. We use sold data because that tells us what buyers are willing to pay for a property. If we used the data from other houses currently on the market, that only tells us how optimistic or how desperate a seller might be to sell the property. The sold data tells us exactly what people like you are willing to pay for a similar property. So when we write the offer, it's a full-fledged contract. It's not like a letter of intent. It is the entire contract from start to finish. I write it up, I send it your way, you electronically sign it, and then we send it to the seller. The seller is going to look at that offer and make a decision. While we're in this kind of place where we're talking about price and making an offer, most houses in Houston are typically priced correctly, and they usually sell for list price about, or even in the past we've seen them sell for like 1 to 2% low, and that's just in the current market. The past, almost 10 years, right? The past 8 to 10 years, we've been seeing them sell for around list, 1% below, or even a little bit over. In a buyer's market, you would definitely see different conditions, but right now that's what we're seeing. And depending upon the sub market you're looking, if there's a lot of demand for it, you will see competition and people paying more than it's listed for. Once we send that offer to the seller and they're making their decision, they have 3 choices to make. They can choose to decline the offer completely, and that's what this awesome little meme is for. If they feel like your offer is not serious and it's insulting, they'll just kick it back with, "We don't even want to talk to you about it. There's no negotiations." They'll just decline it. But most likely what they'll do is come back and negotiate. They'll submit a counter offer and ask for you to look at that and either agree or submit your own counter. It is unlikely that they'll accept your offer as is. Most of the time they're going to counter, and you usually should plan on 2 to 3 rounds of back and forth before we reach an agreement that makes the seller and the buyer happy. When we accomplish that, I will send you a revised contract to sign with the new terms. We'll send it over to the seller will sign, and then the last agent to see it will execute that, and we are officially under contract. When you're under contract, there are 2 upfront fees that you need to pay immediately. The first is the 1% earnest money, and the earnest money functions as a deposit of sorts. It's not technically a deposit, and it's not technically even consideration for the contract, but it kind of serves that purpose. You're giving this money to the seller to just let them know that you're earnestly, genuinely planning on buying their home, and you would like them to stop showing it to other buyers, or at least stop actively looking for someone else to purchase the property. So you give them 1% of the purchase price on a $300,000 house. That's $3,000. That goes to the title company, and it's held in escrow, and it does get applied towards your total out-of-pocket costs. In the event that you default on your agreement to purchase the house, that earnest money is not refundable. The seller can keep it as damages in lieu of trying to take actual legal action. However, there is one caveat to that. You're also going to pay a 0.1% option fee. So on a $300,000 house, that's $300. And that is a negotiable amount. Both of these are negotiable, but that's what we're seeing most often is this 1% and 0.1. That option fee is going to give you an express right to terminate the contract within a certain number of days. So if you do use that right and terminate the contract within a certain number of days that we specify, you would get your earnest money back. If you try to cancel the contract after those number of days, then you would not get your earnest money back. The option fee is not refundable, but if you do make it all the way to closing, it is applied to your purchase cost. The option fee is usually for a 10-day period. It's negotiable. We usually see people shorten it to try and convince the seller that they're serious and they want the property. We don't usually see it extended beyond the 10 days. Oh, and I didn't mention this earlier, and I should have, because we're not really stopping to ask if you have questions. We do want your questions, and we plan on asking at the end if you have any. So if you did think of any, I hope you jotted them down. And you're also welcome to type them into the chat. That way we can just all look back on them, and we'll make sure that they're all addressed. So the option period, this is that time when you can totally walk away if you want to, right? You paid for the right to terminate the contract. And this is also a good time to do your inspections. And the reason is the Texas contract does not have a place that explicitly states that you can terminate if you aren't satisfied with the inspection results. So you definitely want to knock the inspections out during that window of time where you have the right to terminate for any reason whatsoever. So during your home inspections, we hopefully won't find you a house like this. Just so you guys know, I don't think I've ever shown a house like this. But you'll start off most likely with a general inspection. And that person will go through and evaluate the systems and then let you know if you need other inspections for different components of the house. And since I'm not an expert on that, I'm going to let Travis tell you about it. Travis, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to give hosting rights to you so that you can share your screen.
Thank you.
And there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Travis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Like everybody on this panel, I'm here and I'm a professional home inspector because I love what I do. It's pretty much all I've ever done. I've been around residential construction all my life, whether it be starting framing houses in high school, working as a ranch manager, working on interior hardware to building houses, and then now owning my own business, being a home inspector. I've had my business now for going on, I think, 9 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. So one of the main things I like to talk to people about is what an inspection is, or better yet, what it's not. A home inspection is not a pass or fail. It is not a buy or don't buy. Essentially, my job is to inspect the house that you're looking to purchase and provide the information to you of what I see the day of the inspection. The inspection for me, what I give to my clients is not all about deficiencies. It's informing you about your home. Whether or not it be where the water meter is located, main water shutoff valve. I personally include all the model and serial numbers to all the equipment in the house, such as the appliances in the kitchen, AC units, furnaces, water heaters. So that's beneficial in case you have a service call in the future. You can go to my report and then get that model and serial number out of there. But it is also deficiencies, things that are either actively damaging the home, things that are not working during the inspection, or safety issues. Okay. As Angel said, typically you have an option period that I commonly hear somewhere between 7 or 10 days, sometimes a little longer, but typically somewhere in the 7 to 10 day time frame. When I arrive to the inspection, I'm typically going to arrive in the morning. I usually just do one inspection a day. Depending on the size and the age of the home is really going to depend on how long I am, but they're at the house. But typically I'm there for about 4 hours. Sometimes it could be 6, sometimes it could be 8. depending on the size and the age of the home. If we inspected a house that Angel put the picture up there, that we'd be there a while doing that inspection. I always like to meet with my clients at the end of the inspection to try and explain anything that I found to you, answer any questions that you have, go over the items that I found, and let you know that there are certain items to expect when looking at a home inspection report or looking at a home. There's things that are going to be expected just due to the age of the home itself, wear and tear, natural life expectancy, and or just the way that they built it during 1970 versus what I'm inspecting to now, which is off of the 2006 IRC. So there's always a time there to hopefully talk to me and ask me any questions about things that are priority versus homeowner maintenance type of items. Some of the items that I find can be anywhere from foundation issues, exterior walls. Maybe we find out that we need to seal up exterior penetrations, or there's certain brick cracks that are formed around the house, missing weep holes. I inspect the electrical components of the home. So electrical panel, all your receptacles, light fixtures, all the plumbing. So I'm going to be testing and making sure that all the hots and colds are working at all the fixtures, tubs, and showers, and sinks. Drains, obviously make sure there's no leaks underneath cabinets. Everything that's accessible, an home inspector is going to inspect. Also HVAC equipment. So that is AC and furnace, duct work inside the attic space. We mentioned appliances in the kitchen, as just as little as making sure the microwave is functioning properly, heating up water, there's no radiation leaks around the door while it's operating, making sure your oven is cooking to the temperature that you want it to. And then also irrigation systems, so sprinkler systems. If there's a sprinkler system present, I personally do not charge extra for that. And then one other thing that I do as well as part of the inspection is use my thermal imaging camera, looking for any type of potential moisture intrusion or missing insulation. So I use that at all the critical areas of the home to help me find any areas that could be re-insulated, or just as I did this week on one of the houses I inspected, basically a small leak at one of the plumbing lines that was heading across the bathroom ceiling, making its way to the shower head. So you couldn't see with your eyes. There was no stain. There was no bubbling from the water. It was a slow leak, but my thermal imaging camera was able to pick up that spot. And then I was able to confirm it with my moisture meter. Again, the inspection itself is not a pass or fail. It's not a buy, don't buy. It's not a good deal, bad deal. I go there and inspect this home unbiased. Basically, I work with my client, and my job is to want to inform the client about this home. One of the biggest things that I can explain when to potential buyers is that when you're looking at older homes, maybe let's just say built from 1950s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to maybe even the early 2000s, there's going to be things to expect to find. And it's just a matter of how much you, the buyer, are willing to take on, and what you are prepared to obviously move forward with and purchase. I inspect townhomes, condos, single family residents. We do phase inspections as well. So if you're looking to buy a new home and you'd like to have inspections throughout the construction process, I inspect before they pour the foundation, before they install the insulation and start covering things up, such as the framing, electrical, and plumbing. And then an inspection before you close on the home, which is called the final home inspection, which typically takes place about a week or week and a half before your closing date. Also 1-year warranty inspection. So if you buy a new home and you'd like to have an inspection before that 1-year warranty is over with the builder, I inspect those as well and provide a home inspection report, just like we were if you were doing a final home inspection. Again, I typically anywhere from 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours, just depends on the home. Always like to meet with my clients at the end of the inspection, but then also too, for me, I'm always going to have the inspection sent to my clients by the end of the same evening. That way you can kind of just quickly move on with the next process, which Angel's going to talk about here in a moment. But one of the things I always like to make sure that everybody understands is that, like a lot of people here on the panel, small business, I'm always available for my clients, whether it be during the process of scheduling, during the inspection, after you receive the report, or 6 months after you move in. My cell phone is basically straight to me. It's not a answering service or anything like that. So my clients know that they can always have contact to me if they have any questions or anything like that in the future. But I think that's it for me. I'm a little, I've got, if you look down the chat, I added some attachments, which are some of my sample reports. There's an existing home, so that means if you're looking to buy a resale, there's a new construction sample report, and then a phase 2, which is the inspection before you install, before the builder insulates the home. So those are in the chat. They're PDFs. I think you can probably download those or whatnot. And I see that Chad has some of his stuff in there as well. But yeah, I just really appreciate you guys spending some time with us and hearing us out. And obviously, we're all here if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Would you mind giving me host permission so that I can share my screen?
Yeah, pass the baton here.
Thank you.
Where was that again, Chad? Share screen? No.
Oh, just go up to go find my image, click on the 3 dots.
Bam.
And, yep. Awesome.
You're the hostess with the mostest now.
Thank you.
Chad? No?
It was great. It was great. So Travis does really mean it when he says you can call him anytime. He inspected my house 3 years ago, and I still call him with what's this and what do I do with it and how do I fix it and who do I call or whatever it may be. And my dad is an electrician who does everything at our house, at my parents' house, and I still call Travis first usually. So
Pop's dad.
No, my poor dad. If you are thinking new construction, what I love most about Travis is his experience in new construction in the industry itself. So he knows how a house is supposed to be built, and he doesn't take a lot of flack from builders saying, no, that's not how it's supposed to be done. He's like, no, I used to do this. I know exactly how it's supposed to be done. In addition to having a general inspection with Travis, like if he notices things with the electrical, the plumbing, I feel like you guys can hear me. I just keep looking at Travis, and that's so weird. Like, why are you the only person I can see?
I'm here. Oh, I'm the only one unmuted, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. He might recommend that you reach out to somebody to inspect the plumbing system or the electrical system or the foundation. If he notices enough breadcrumbs to indicate there's actually a problem that needs to be checked out by somebody who has that experience. I am going to share my screen. That's what's happening. I was sharing my screen and my screen was Travis. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay, so after we get the inspection report, which Travis provides the same day, the law requires that the inspectors provide that within 2 business days of completing the inspection. Travis always provides his by midnight. It usually comes in around 9:30, 10 o'clock or so. We'll take all that information. I'll review it, you'll review it, and we'll sit down and decide what your priority items are. Even on a new construction home, you're going to see a report that's 40 pages long with different things. The great thing about new construction is we give the report to the builder and they just fix all of it. When you're buying a house from an individual, you don't want to send them a 40-page report. I mean, you want to, but it won't be effective. They're going to come back to you with, we've been living in this house for X years, just the way it is. So we want to make sure we figure out which things are actually significant and, high priority, either for health or safety reasons, or just very expensive. We want to figure out what those items are so we can get them addressed. So we want to focus on health, safety, and anything over $500 is kind of the general rule of thumb in Houston. We'll take all of that to the seller and we'll try to negotiate either repairs for these items or a lower purchase price. It's up to you whichever route you prefer. A reduced purchase price means the work's going to fall on you. If you actually want to make those repairs, you're going to have to do it yourself after you buy the house and close. But that gives you the flexibility of deciding who does those repairs. If you want the seller to do the repairs because you're not interested in trying to manage that kind of project or call contractors or whatever, then the seller gets to choose who does the repairs. If the seller does agree to repairs, we will always ask for proof that the repairs have been completed with photos, video, receipts, definitely receipts, potentially photos and videos if those are applicable. And we'll always request in the request for repairs that they use a licensed contractor where applicable, or a competent contractor if such a thing as a licensed contractor in that field doesn't exist. The seller does not have to agree to do all of your repairs or to reduce the price. So our goal will be to negotiate terms that make both the buyer and the seller happy so that you still get to purchase a house versus backing out of the deal. You do have the right to back out as long as you're still within your option period. So we want to try and coordinate all of this to happen within that window of time. The option period ends on typically the 10th day at 5 p.m. So we're going to need that day, the 10th day, for preparing the amendment that both parties will sign agreeing to the changes, whether it's repairs or the price. And so the days before that, the 9th and 8th, are probably going to be ideal for negotiations, which leaves the 7th through probably the 2nd day for inspections. If you're just doing a general inspection, that gives you a really big window. But if you're trying to do a general inspection and a foundation inspection and a pool inspection, that's a very limited number of days. But it's normal, and that's what every buyer, encounters, and we'll just, we'll have to coordinate. But you want to try and get as much done as you can by that 7th day so that you have time to negotiate, time to write an amendment, and time to execute it before the option period expires. And I know that sounds very daunting, but that's why you have a team. We're all here to stay on top of deadlines and make sure things get completed. I'm here to harass inspectors if we need a report and stay on top of the listing agent to make sure that we're keeping the lines of communication open and that we're getting these documents signed so that everything keeps moving along smoothly. While this is happening, the lender is also doing some things, and you're probably going to be getting some phone calls from them asking for different documents in order for them to verify the 3 C's that Chad mentioned earlier. Because they've already done your, they got you pre-approved, but now they have to get you fully approved. So they'll also be in touch doing things as well. And they're going to be ordering the appraisal and probably recommending that you start shopping for insurance if we move through the option period onto the next stage. So I do not do appraisals. I only do comparative market analysis. They are different, but they're similar. Both myself and the appraiser are trying to estimate what the house value is so that you make an offer that's realistic and you're not in a situation later where the appraisal is different and we're trying to negotiate that with a seller. So I'm trying to get as close to what I think the appraiser is going to also value the home at, but we definitely have different training. So I'm going to let Alex explain to you what an appraisal is and what it means and, what's typical in Houston. Alex, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to give you the mic. And if you need to share your screen, you can, because I'm making you the host.
I don't need to share screen, but thank you very much, Angel. So I do a lot of these presentations by usually my target markets, realtors or lenders, and I had to put myself in the shoes of a buyer who's never gone through this process before, and I started doing some research just to see what information would be important. And I've got some notes. I've been an appraiser in the Houston market area since 1999, so I've seen so many areas develop and change and values go up and down. And Angel, you're so right. It's been a seller's market for most of that time, except for that little blip in 2008. But when you're buying a home and you're getting a mortgage, the home appraisal is a key component of the transaction. So if you're a buyer, you need to understand what the appraisal process is and how an appraiser determines a home value. So an appraisal is an unbiased professional opinion of a home's value. Appraisals are always used in purchase transactions. Usually, unless someone's putting 20% down, you might get a waiver. And in a purchase and sales transaction, appraisals used to determine whether the home's contract price is appropriate given the home's condition, location, and features. Now, lenders want to make sure that the homeowners are not over-borrowing, overpaying for a property because the home serves as the collateral for the mortgage. If the borrower should default on the mortgage and go into foreclosure, the lender will sell the home to recoup the money it went. The appraisal helps the bank protect itself from the lending in order to recover in the worst case scenario. So property's appraisal value is influenced by many things. The most important thing is what homes are selling for in the market area, what are trends doing in the market area, what kind of amenities does a home have, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, floor plan, how functional is it, what's the square footage. They're all key factors in assessing how we do an appraisal and how we get a value. So the appraisal has to complete a visual inspection of the interior and exterior and note any conditions that adversely affect the property's value, such as needed repairs. We typically use the form called the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report. It's a Fannie Mae form to put together all the information about the house, and it asks very specific questions regarding the interior and exterior of the property, neighborhood, nearby comparable sales. And then we put this all together and analyze it and come to a conclusion of the value. In this report, there are many things that we include. One is a street map showing where the comparables and the subject are related to the comparables. We do an exterior building sketch, which this is a very important thing that we do in appraisals. 95% of appraisals we actually measure the house. And why is that important? Because you're being advertised a certain square footage, and a lot of times that square footage is not correct. It could be smaller and in some instances bigger, which could be to your benefit, but we verify that for you in the appraisal. We put an explanation of the square footage. We include photographs of the subject property. We include photographs of exterior of all the comparables, so you know what they look like. So what do you need to know? When you're buying a home and you're under contract, the appraisal will be one of the first steps in the closing process. If the appraisal comes in at or above the contract price, the transaction should proceed as planned. If the appraisal comes in below the contract price, it can derail or delay the transaction. Chances are neither you nor the seller want the transaction to fall through. As a buyer, you have an advantage in that a below appraisal can serve as a negotiation tool to convince the seller to lower the price. Now, when you're in a seller's market, that becomes very, very difficult to do because the seller thinks that their home is worth what it's worth, and people are out there making offers, and sometimes you're going to be in a multiple offer situation. So the bottom line is what we're going out there to do. One thing I've noticed whenever we do these first-time home buyer seminars, one thing I see is your realtors playing quarterback. And you see that Angel's quarterbacking the process throughout the whole purchase transaction. And I see the appraiser as the referee. You don't notice the referee's there until the flag is thrown. And when the flag is thrown, that's when everyone starts questioning, like, what's going on? How do we resolve this? Chad, I know you want to say something right there, don't you?
I'm just trying to figure out is Angel Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes? I just want to know,
He's definitely a Tom Brady.
Okay, sorry.
Veteran and a lot of Super Bowl rings. But, you won't hear about the appraisal. You're going to get charged for the appraisal. That's something that's very important to know. Usually it's Chad that orders the appraisal. He orders it through a third-party independent management company. Usually he orders those through our management company, and then we disperse that to the appraiser that knows the market area the best and can get it done the quickest. Roughly the fees for appraisals are in the $500 to $600 range. So just mental note that you typically will pay for that. Sometimes it's paid at closing. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is protecting you. We're getting information about the house, just like Travis does on an inspection. And we're letting you know that you're buying a house for a certain price and it is worth that price or it's not. And if it's not, there's an explanation in there. And that's where it goes to Angel, and Angel can go back and try and renegotiate a lower price and hopefully save you some money. So that's what the appraisal process is. The oversimplified version of it, again, it's not a problem until it's a problem. But at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is protect you, the consumer, and protect the bank.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Did you freeze or are you finished?
No, that's it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm finished. Yeah, thank you so much.
Would you mind giving me the host position back? Because I did give it to you and now I can't take it back.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah. Did you get it?
Yes, I got it. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, you guys will never ever probably ever interact with Alex. So now at least you have a general idea of who it is. Because if you choose to work with Travis for your loan, I mean Chad for your loan, odds are Alex or someone on his team might possibly be the appraiser, especially if you're looking at properties inside the 610 loop. That may not be the case. I've had appraisals come in from all over the place, but a lot of them when I'm doing a deal with Chad seem to come from at least Alex's company, if not from Alex. He did mention that, it's not a problem until it becomes a problem. In my experience, I've only had, I think, 2 appraisals ever come in low. Even right now, like I haven't really seen it a lot. Not that it doesn't happen, but I've only had it happen twice. One time we were able to negotiate with the seller, and one time we were not. The seller was just adamant, and I think their house is still not sold, and it's been a couple of years. But that person, knows what they want for the house, and they're not in a rush to move, and they'll just relist it when, conditions change and they can get more for it. The reason he mentioned that a seller might not necessarily want to negotiate the price because of the multiple offer situations is because it is possible for a buyer to pay more money up front to make up the difference between the appraised value and the loan amount that you were wanting. Because, I mean, the bank is not going to give you anything more than, they're not going to give you more money than the house is worth. But you can, if a buyer has that kind of money, they can actually just put that money up front. And some buyers are willing to do that. So that's why you might interact with a seller who is just really adamant about not reducing the price for you. And, maybe you're thinking, well, who else are you going to sell this house to? There is someone out there, maybe, possibly, that wants the house enough and plans on living in it for 20 years. And they're not really concerned about the appraisal value now because, they're not in it for the investment purposes. They're in it for personal reasons. But moving on, it really doesn't come up very often at all, at least in my experience. But maybe it comes down to the CMA, right? If you work really hard on getting the CMA as accurate as possible, then you won't have issues on the appraisal. So we do our best to renegotiate the price. If we can, we move forward. If we can't, the deal falls apart. But in a perfect world, the appraisal comes in at or above value anyway, at or above the purchase price. Assuming all goes well, the next step is homeowners insurance. You've probably already been told to start looking into it, and you've probably reached out to Cass because most likely Chad or myself told you to reach out to Cass. Maybe you contacted the person that does your auto insurance. I will say that when you're looking at homeowners insurance, it's a great time to also shop your auto rate because you probably haven't shopped it in years, and you might be able to get a better deal. But I am going to pass the baton over to Cass so that he can go into insurance, the different types, and the why you need them.
All the
as soon as I
things.
figure out how to stop sharing. As soon as I figure out how to stop sharing.
Awesome.
There we go. Found it.
I appreciate that, Angel. Thank you so much. And so, again, my name is Cass. I'm a sales manager with Goosehead Insurance. I'm located physically up in the Woodlands, but I can write business all across the great state of Texas. And so just really quick about Goosehead. We were founded in 2003. Our whole model is strictly focused around the power of choice and being able to provide options to our clients whenever we are talking to them. There is really not one company that can insure every single house that's out there, but with us having 30 to 40 different carrier partners, we do have an option for every situation that's going to be coming to us. And then within Goosehead, we are a mix of both regional and national carriers. And so in the Houston market, for the longest period in time, it was our regional market that was really strong. So that just means it's carriers you have not heard of because they're not out on TV advertising. You won't see Goosehead on Sunday in the Super Bowl. You're not going to see some of these carriers. We also do have carriers like Progressive and Travelers and Safeco that can make sure we're accommodating any situation that does come up to us. Angel hit the nail on the head. When should you call for insurance? It is going to be during the option period. Reason being is you want to make sure that, number one, your insurance pricing is going to be good for the house. Chad was talking about that income ratios earlier. A lot of the numbers behind the scenes are relatively fixed for you. Your taxes are going to look like, your interest rate, all those things, you can't really change it in the city. The one thing you can change is going to be your homeowner's insurance rate. And so you can get a quote that's $4,000 or you can get a quote that's $2,000. Congratulations, you've saved over $100 a month in regards to what your monthly payment is going to look like. I always encourage you to take a look with whomever your personal insurance is with. Just don't stop there. Contact a broker, be it myself, be it someone else, and we'll gladly take a look and just kind of make sure we're providing the proper options for you whenever it's coming into play. This can also get you an exact flood zone determination. We will touch on flood insurance in a second, but technically the entire city of Houston isn't a flood zone. There's just a flood zone that means it's required to carry. And there's a flood zone that means it is not required to carry. So flood zone X is X marks the spot. That's the good zone. That means you do not need to carry, but actually up to 70% of houses that flooded during Harvey sat inside of this exact flood zone. So we'll touch on pricing again in a second for that. And then lastly, peace of mind. You're not going to have Chad banging on your door saying, where's the insurance? I need to get this done. Insurance is done, out of the way. That way everything can just move forward and fluid throughout the process. When you're reaching out to your insurance agent, the real questions you should be expecting to get asked is going to be, how old is the roof on the house? That's one of the biggest factors in regards to cost in the city of Houston in general. The magic number is 15. And so roofers will say, I have a 30, 45, 60-year-old shingle. Congratulations. Unfortunately, we still just kind of crack it down at a 15-year mark. The closer to 15 means just the higher the cost is going to be. The closer to 0, aka brand new, the better your cost is going to be in general. So that's one of the reasons where you can lean back on your inspection and they'll give a average life that they're seeing, expectancy, and just how old that they're seeing on the inspection. So that's why you want to have a good inspector come out and make sure they're doing a really good job when reviewing the roof, because they understand this is such a big impact factor for us. Second question you may get asked is going to be PVC or galvanized plumbing. So galvanized is a metallic plumbing that tends to explode. Kind of got out of the world in the late 70s, early 80s. And so that is why they moved it now to PVC. PVC does pull better pricing. Some carriers are cool with it. Some are not cool with it. If you decide to go with an online broker service and they say, here's your quote, they're not going to ask you this question. When the inevitable inspection comes, you're going to get a homeowner's cancellation. You're going to see what the heck is going on, what went wrong. Plumbing is a really easy area that can be overlooked sometimes. Breed of dog, believe it or not, your dog can make you eligible or ineligible with certain carriers. Every dog out there is great. Just some carriers aren't too happy with them. Then looking at trampolines and pools in the backyard. Some carriers will accept this in the backyard, some will not. Actually have a house that I'm working on right now that someone built a 8-foot diving board next to a diving board. I can't write that one. That's the one anomaly that comes up, but that was a fun one for us. And so when it comes to it, you need to understand that no two policies are going to be the exact same. At the end of the day, there are 2 different policy forms that you can look at. Consult your insurance agent and just ask the questions in regards to what our coverages are. In Texas, you do have 4 available water coverages back to you outside of flood insurance. Again, speak to your insurance agent to make sure you're getting taken care of all these things. In the example that Travis was talking about earlier with the leakage that was noticed in his inspection, some inspectors that aren't as good as him are not going to catch that. And that can turn into what's called slow and continuous leakage or seepage. Some carriers offer it, a lot don't. Reason being is because the usual minimum payout is $50,000 for it. If that wasn't caught during the inspection, that was going to be a huge water loss that starts with a singular drop in the wall. So just make sure you have an insurance agent that can kind of consult you on all of those coverages. And then really a couple last touch points is understanding what type of insurance you need. There are some policies where you are required to cover both the inside and the outside of the house. So a traditional homeowner is a single family dwelling, or you could potentially be looking at condo insurance policy. Condo just means you're responsible for the studs in, meaning part of your monthly payment goes to your HOA. Your HOA is responsible for the cosmetics on the outside, the roof, everything of that nature. That's just going to be determining your coverage A, or just how much insurance you have on the home. One thing to understand, and this is where Alex and the appraisal can come into, there is a difference between market value and replacement cost of the home. So if we're all familiar with the city, we can all think of the Heights right now. Hot market, $400,000 is the value of the land. Well, I appreciate that you're buying a $700,000 house. Insurance may only view that as a $300,000 home because you have so much value sitting in the dirt. Insurance is only looking at the foundation and higher for you. So do know it is not 100% required 100% of the time to insure to your loan amount. Your loan amount factors for the market. insurance wants to factor at replacement cost. I'm happy to sell you a policy up to your market value if you want to, but I'm not here to make an extra buck off you. So make sure you are looking at a full replacement cost policy, as that will satisfy 99.9% of loans. There's always that 1.1% where they just want that full valuation done on that. And then the last thing is going to be flood insurance. I'd already touched on this. And so what flood insurance is going to be is a flood claim is 2 acres of traditionally dry land that take on water. And so if Angel's house takes on water, none of her neighbors do, that's not a flood insurance claim. If Angel's whole neighborhood takes on water, that is going to be flood insurance. The 2021 pricing is $572. This is my peace of mind coverage. I strongly encourage that regardless of whether your house has or has not taken on water, it's the smartest $572 investment that you can make the first year you're inside of the home. Reason being, they're putting a Target and a Hobby Lobby and a Starbucks in every single corner of the world, it seems like these days. Where that cement is laid is where water used to be able to absorb. And so just because something didn't flood during Tax and Memorial and Harvey and Imelda and all these different things, we've done a lot of construction around the area. So just remember, where water once used to be able to drain away, that is now a parking lot for a new complex that's possibly in our vicinity. Sleep great for a year, choose to not renew it, or choose to renew it every single year. If you get it whenever you do close, day one coverage. And so especially if you're purchasing April to November, it seems like these days is hurricane season. Make sure you do have an agent that's going to get that coverage solidified for you day one. If you wait a day after you close and you say, yes, I want this policy, you're going to be stuck in the 30-day wait period. One of my clients, a client in Florida, she called in very late to get flood insurance. Her house flooded on day 29 of 30 wait period, and there's nothing that could be done for, unfortunately, with that. So make sure you're securing this coverage day one for whenever you are closing on the house. And that is insurance in a nutshell.
Thank you, Cass. So Cass is one of my many insurance agents. I have many because I work in the industry, so I know several, and I had felt this obligation to spread the love around. But Cass does have most of my policies, and he gets a call from me multiple times a year because none of them renew at the same time. He always finds me a better rate. And somehow I completely forgot that I was even going to need to worry about insurance when I was refinancing. I have to only assume that Chad was like, hey, Cass, call Angel. And actually, I don't even think Cass called me. I think Cass just took care of it. Like, I think he just made sure that my insurance went from one mortgage holder to the next one. So when you're ready for insurance, he's definitely somebody to at least reach out to and get some quotes from. He's been able to provide the lowest quotes out of everyone I've ever reached out to, actually. I can't promise he'll do that for you, but he always has managed to pull it off for me. And I think it's because he has so many different carriers that he works with. Flood insurance, he touched on it. He mentioned that all of Houston is a flood zone. You may be in the fantastic X marks the spot zone, which means you're safe generally, and you're not required to carry an insurance policy, or you may be in the 100-year or 500-year where you are required to carry some type of coverage. He also mentioned that 70% of the homes that flooded during Harvey were in the X zone, where they assumed there was no risk at all. And so I will always recommend that you get flood coverage. I have flood coverage on my home, and I'm in the X zone, and I haven't flooded yet, so I am just spending the money, but we buy insurance hoping we never, ever have to use it. So, and with it being, under $600, it's a great peace of mind, because it's going to cover what, 200,000, 250,000?
It's up to 250,000 on the structure, 100,000 for actual cash value contents for you. And so whenever we all kind of became flood experts during Harvey, with just like the remediation going around, you can cut up to so much in your house to show the drywall, and you have to leave everything in the front yard for FEMA for whenever they do come by and do the inspections, and they'll base the payments off of that. But Harvey was just like, what's your coverage? Here you go. That's how bad Harvey was.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So I guess my point is, like, even if if they determine you only have $40,000 or $50,000 in damage, $600 is a really small price to pay to make sure that you get that insurance payout if you need it. Okay, let's see what happens after you get your insurance. So you made it through the inspection, you made it through the option period. Why am I still showing cats? This is the weirdest thing. How do I stop sharing the screen? Like, I don't know. You guys, I'm so sorry. I apologize, but I don't know how to stop sharing the screen. So your eyes are just going to keep looking at Cass.
It's all about your view. Must be how you have you set up. And so,
okay, you guys do see me as like the speaker.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing, I got everybody. I don't have it on speaker view on mine.
Okay, I have it in speaker view and I just keep looking at Cass. So
It's not a fortunate face, so I'm sorry.
no, it's a great face. So you make it through the option period, which is great, awesome. And then you move on and you make it through the appraisal, fantastic. And you're insured, and the lender has been emailing you this whole time asking for different things, and not just Chad, but his team, Haley and Marissa and the underwriter. And they're just asking for updated bank statements and things like that to verify that nothing has changed from start to finish. And during this process, after they've approved you as a buyer and approved the house as a reasonable piece of collateral, basically, they are going to decide that you are clear to close. When you're clear to close, they're going to send out a form called the closing disclosure. And from that moment, closing can happen 3 days later or later than that, but no sooner. So once we get that clear to close, we're going to reach out to the title company and say, hey, we're ready to rock and roll. Let's get this on the calendar. Your closing date is already in the contract, but that's a soft date because things could change. I won't say never. I've had to reschedule closing once or twice. It was never from somebody on the buyer side. It was always because of something on the seller side. I had a seller once that was in Angola, and it was taking that seller 10 days to respond to any communication. So obviously that just slowed everything down. We had to reschedule closing. I had a seller once that was in Russia and taking 3 days to respond to everything. And since he was so slow to respond, we had to push things. But I've never had a situation where the buyer is the cause of having to change the closing date. So out of 50 something closings, 2 of them have had date changes. So the odds are really low, right? That we'll change the date, but it is a soft date just in case it does change. Once we get that clear to close, we can reach out to the title company and schedule closing. I want to make sure that I'm not skipping anything on the slides real quick, because I have a tendency of doing that, of just being like, I forgot that I had a presentation. So we'll go double check that real quick. But yeah, actually next step is closing. So we'll schedule your closing with the closer, and I'm going to let Deanna tell you what happens, what her role is from start to finish, and then what happens at the closing table. So Deanna, do you need?
Yeah, you don't have to share.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for being here, Deanna.
Thank you. So first of all, wow, everyone, this is a lot of great information. And there is a quiz at the end, just so you know. I'm just kidding. The only thing you have to remember really on this call is Angel, because she has all of this down and she'll remember it all for you and she'll walk you through it. And it's really, really important. And she does that for, $0. She costs you $0. So it's, I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I definitely like to mention that because we see a lot of people at title companies. Some of them have realtors. Some of them don't. Some of them have, realtors that are better than others. You can tell that right away. But we see all kinds of things, but everyone knows what the title company does, right? I'm just kidding. No one knows what the title company is doing. So, and I say that with love. I, started working for North American 10 years ago. I was working for a mortgage law firm, so a doc prep law firm. I only worked with people like Chad, only mortgage companies. And I thought, oh yeah, I know what a title company does. So I went to work for North American about 10 years ago. And I got there and I realized I have no idea what title companies do. It's definitely a lot more going on than you think. I thought this is where you go to sign the papers, but there's a little more happening. So title companies are insurance providers as well. So they're ensuring the validity of the transaction. They're ensuring that the person selling the property actually has the right to sell it to you. That's really important. And then they're ensuring that it's free of liens and judgments and all of those types of things that you do not want when you purchase a property. So title insurance is like backwards insurance though. So, when you get your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance, you're insuring against things that could happen in the future. So that's what your policy is covering. For a title company, it's a one-time fee, you only pay it at closing. And then it's insuring everything that's happened in the past. So it's covering, they're making sure, like I said, the person selling has the right to sell. So maybe, grandma and grandpa were married and grandpa passed away, but he was married to someone else before grandma and that, has children. You got to make sure that we're representing everyone in that transaction. And sometimes it does get a little difficult. Title companies deal with some of the heavier things in the industry, death, divorce, if you didn't pay your taxes or, the seller didn't pay their child support, those things all come up at the title company. So we make sure all of that's taken care of though, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's really protecting your home ownership. So that's one of the main things that's going on at the title company. So in the title office itself, your escrow officer, everyone at the title company, they're actually carrying out the transaction. However, it's written in the contract. So we're a neutral party. We just do whatever you've agreed upon. So title company doesn't care if, you put down $1,000 of earnest money or $10,000 of earnest money. We just carry out the contract. We just follow through and make sure everything that you've agreed upon happens. So, which is really important. In North American's case, we're the insurance provider and the title company. This is the safest and most secure type of title company for you to use. Fewer claims come out of this type of title company, and it happens down the road. Something could come up, but you want to make sure your title company's there for you and that they can take care of you. So title company typically gets involved in the transaction when the contract is signed. When you have an executed contract, Angel will send it over or someone will send it over, and then we immediately open title. So when we open title, that basically means we have a title plant, and everyone at the title plant examines the property. We check everything that follows the property and then the person's name. And we issue a title commitment, and the title commitment is a promise to insure the transaction. So we're working on that in the background, and the title office, we're receiving your earnest money. There's many different ways that you can get the earnest money to us. Title companies are becoming more and more virtual. You don't have to bring a check anymore. Of course, you could always do wire, but most title companies use an app that you can take a picture of your check and deposit the earnest money. So that's super easy, especially if you're out of the country, and it doesn't cost you anything like a wire would cost you. So, if you're out of the state, out of the country, FedEx takes a little while. It is, there is a time limit. So we try to make sure that we, catch you before that, that time runs out. So, and then once we issue the title commitment, there's different schedules and a lot of different information on that commitment, and it reads like a legal document because it is, but it's everything on that commitment has to do with different parts of the transaction, but Schedule C is kind of the clear to close section, and that's what the title company needs to clear with the seller before we can close the transaction. So in addition to that, title company is ordering documents from the HOA, we're ordering the survey, we're working with the lender, and I do want to kind of, reiterate some of the things that you heard, working with a local lender. I'm really impressed that, Angel, you've only had a few transactions that were backed up, because at the, like I said, we work with everyone at the title company. We see a lot, and we do have closing dates that are changed all the time. So when you're working with a local lender, you are less likely to see your closing date change. I'll just say that, the big box lenders are a little more difficult, and it's easier to say no, if they're in Wisconsin and, they're processing your transaction it's not that personal touch, and it's kind of a little easier for them to say, hey, we just can't do it by this date. We're gonna close next week, and not realize that you're living out of boxes at this point and you're ready to go. So once you get to the title company, you're at the finish line. You're on autopilot and you're just coming in for a landing. So all of these things are already in place, and it just all comes together kind of with the title company. They work with everyone to just finish up your transaction.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So in a nutshell, Deanna's job is to make sure, well, somebody in Deanna's office job is to make sure that the person selling the house has the right to sell the house and that there's nothing in the way making it difficult for you to be the owner of the house. And so they're checking the history of the home, checking the history of the seller, checking the history of you too, just in case you have something weird out there that might get in the way, like maybe you have a lien from a previous house or something, but they're checking for liens too. Like they want to know if there's something, if a contractor put a lien on the house, the seller needs to pay off before it becomes yours so that doesn't become a complication for you. And then they manage the transaction from start to finish. Like your realtor and your lender and your inspector and everyone's like we're all communicating, and your realtor is the person that you talk to the most, but the title company is making sure that every single other person is doing exactly like she mentioned, what's in the contract. Like that's her, like that is their like number one job, is to make sure that everyone is doing exactly what it says. If it says that the buyer is paying for the HOA documents, then they're going to reach out to you so you can pay for the HOA documents. But if it says the seller is paying for it, then they're going to contact the seller. And they're going to communicate back to us if they haven't received that money so that we can all get on the phone with each other and make it happen so that there's no delays. But then she also gets to be there with you at the very, very end, where it's the most amazing part of all. Like she gets to sit there with you and help you sign 80 pages of buyer documents. And she gets to hand you your keys. You should kind of know that you don't necessarily get the keys right there that second. There's four things that have to happen for you to get your keys. One, your wire or your cashier's check, if the title company accepts cashier's checks, for your down payment and your closing costs, also known as your cash to close, must be received by the title company. Two, all of the money from the bank that's paying for the house for you, the bank that's paying everything but your down payment, that large wire has to make it to the title company. The buyer has to sign their documents, the seller has to sign their documents, and all of that has to be approved. Once all of that is approved, then like the transaction is 100% is officially closed and you can get your keys. So that entire process could actually take a few hours. And if you close on a Friday at the end of the day, like that in theory could maybe even take till Monday. So you either hang out for a little bit with Deanna if like you're the last one to sign and the seller's already been there and she can give you the keys after she gets all that funding approval, or you leave and you come back. But if I had one piece of advice to say about the closing, I would definitely recommend a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday closing. Fridays are crazy days. The underwriting department has to approve all those things, may or may not be located in Texas, and they may or may not have 400 other closings that day. And closing on a Monday is basically the same thing as closing on a Friday, seeing as how almost everyone involved in the transaction does not work Saturdays or Sundays. Like there's a lot of things that your lender and your escrow officer can do on Saturdays and Sundays, but since those are not banking days, they're kind of limited when it comes to things like moving money around, which is a critical component of getting closed. So I think that's pretty much buying a house in an hour and a half long nutshell. Does anyone have any, I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. We mentioned documents, we mentioned funding. Ooh, wire fraud. Don't want to scare you, but wire fraud is a really real thing. And we want to make sure that we mention it as many times as possible so you don't forget. Wiring money is the most common way to pay your cash to close. And you are able to also do a cashier's check. Some title companies have a 3-day hold on cashier's checks to verify that they're not forgeries and that the money is real. If you really want your keys the same day, the fastest way to make that happen is with a wire, but you can also, be defrauded and your money can be taken from you. So in the event you ever receive an email asking you to wire money, do not wire money. Just don't do it. Instead, go back to your records and find a number for your title company, not the number in the email. Go back to your old records, find the number for your title company, or call your realtor and ask for the phone number to the title company and call them and ask if they requested you to send them funds yet. If they have, they'll be happy to verify everything that's in that email so you can make sure that that email is valid. before you send money. Because if you send money and they didn't actually ask for it, it could make its way all the way overseas and just be gone before anyone, notices. So documents, wire fraud, funding, remote closings. Remote closings, those have been more popular recently. Deanna, do you guys offer remote closings other than like having a
There's all different options when it comes to closings now. You can come to the title company. They may be able to go to you. We go to a lot of offices, homes. There's a system called RON, it's Remote Online Notary, where you can do a virtual closing. There has to be, other people on board with that. It's not just up to the title company or the buyer or seller. But if we can get that approved, we'll do a RON notary. You have to be a US citizen. That's the only thing we've run into where we couldn't do one. We'll do curbside closings. You can just drive up to the title company and we'll sign you. So we're very flexible when it comes to closings these days. So, and then if you are coming into the title company right now, especially with COVID, most title companies only allow those who are signing documents to come in. So if you have a large family, maybe get the sitter or something, but we try to keep it to a minimum to protect everyone. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see. We're almost done. We're nearly there. So yeah, you close, you fund, you get your keys, and then you get to do a happy dance with confetti. You are a homeowner. So we're gonna kind of wrap this part up, and then you guys can ask some questions, Leah and Nick, if you have questions. Myrna, if you're there with Nick too. But I can't tell you like how blessed you would be if you had these people working on your transaction. Like every single one of these people was involved in my purchase of my house, and it was the easiest thing that I ever did. And these people are involved in 9 out of 10 of my transactions, like every single time. Like my clients sometimes choose someone else, but most of the time I get to work with these people and everything runs smoothly, which is why I can say I only had 2 transactions that were delayed ever. It's because of the support team that we have. So I'm gonna, let's see, Nick and Leah, if you guys have questions, now is your chance to ask your questions so that we can get them answered for you.
Oh,
Leah?
okay. I have a question for Cass.
Ooh, I'm excited. Last time I did this, it was all Chad, and I was like, okay. I heard good. I was like, oh, it's Chad. All right, here we go. I'm excited.
Okay, on the flood insurance,
Okay.
is it important? Because I've heard before that I guess in order for your claims to be paid or for you to get the value of, I'll say the market value of your property,
Okay.
That you have to keep receipts in order for the insurance company to pay the value of those things. So is that still true, or it doesn't matter? The insurance company is going to pay it at the value of the time of the loss?
So what I suggest that my buyers do is once they get loaded or once they get everything off the truck and they get settled into the house about 2 weeks later, I encourage people to just take a quick walk through the house and take a video, save it onto your phone. So that way, if you need to have video claiming, I have 3 70-inch flat screens, the insurance company is not going to be like, sure you do. Okay. So that's going to be one thing that's going to assist you. Saving receipts is very hard for a lot of people. I would look to save receipts on high-end purchases for you. So furniture, appliances, things of that nature. I'm also going to defer this actually over to Chad. Chad did go through the claim. Since I've been in insurance, we've been very fortunate. It was Imelda. Imelda didn't really hit my focus area. So Chad can kind of speak to it because he actually went through Harvey and what that was like, and he can give you like a real life answer with it.
Cass, your moment to shine.
Whoa.
What was that?
Always throw it back to you.
Your moment to shine, and then you just punch it back to me. I love it. No. I'm teasing. No, I flooded in Harvey, and I will tell you that I think at the end of the day, the Harvey experience was very much like Cass mentioned. I had an inspector that drove here from Georgia the first time, our insurance adjuster, and he acted like it was going to be a piece of cake, no big deal. And he did a bunch of stuff, and then you got an initial check, and then I just really struggled, and I couldn't get him back to the property. It was a painful process, and he ended up getting rid of me and handing me off to another person. And I think it sort of worked in my favor because I initially did not max out on the content coverage. The maximum content coverage is 100,000, right, Cass?
Yep.
And so like they gave me 45,000, and I was like, there's no way. I mean, when I looked at everything I'd lost, I was like, it just wasn't enough. And the next guy came out, and whatever he did, he got my content coverage all the way up to 100. And I had a 2-story townhome, and so really it's only the first floor that flooded. And so they covered on the content, on the structure side, I think I got about 80 or 90,000, something like that. It was a big loss no matter what. I will tell you, the more documentation you have, the better off you are. So saving receipts is difficult. If you're super organized and it's something you don't mind doing, it certainly wouldn't hurt you. And if you can share it put it on your, we lost some data during the cleanup because then our actually walking through water, our phones had pictures and things, and we lost some of our documentation because we didn't store it appropriately. So storing it appropriately is important, or storing it in the cloud or whatever you can do there is key.
Yeah. And when you're selecting your limits with flood insurance, the highest available that you can go is 250,000. There is excess market at times, there is surplus. We won't dive into that. That's just one. Angel can get you my information. We can chat offline with that. But if your house is a value of 500,000 and we insured at 250,000 max per FIP, your house is still insured to replacement cost. But if you have a $250,000 house and you opt to do 150,000 in structural coverage, now your house is going to be paid on the depreciation schedule. So you want to remain within 90% of market unless it's greater than 250,000. So content is always depreciation value. Your structure, as long as you're the 90% replacement costs, again, 250 cap on it, you will be replacement costs on that, meaning same like, kind, and quality.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Cass, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you get your flood insurance during the transaction when you're purchasing, it goes into effect immediately.
Correct.
If you do not, it takes 30 days. So if you
Correct. So
blowing in, then you have
right. I was really, so this was pre-insurance, Cass. We used to live in South Houston, and my wife asked me, she's like, hey, well, we have flood insurance, right, on our house, and Harvey was brewing in the water, and I was like, no. And I called I was with USA Car at the time, and I called them like, oh, it's a 30-day wait period. I was like, all right, well, this is going to happen. This is fun. So it wasn't a fun conversation to kind of figure out after the fact, because I went through the builder's lender. They said, here's a quote, and never talked to anyone. I didn't even know about flood insurance. It's kind of one of the things like, oh yeah, this is covered, but it's actually one of the 9 exclusions very clearly stated. And the deck page is 90 pages long. Most of us aren't reading that.
Okay.
Anything else? That was a great question.
Yeah, great question.
It's not, people don't ask enough questions about flood insurance or just flooding in general, but it's a big risk in Houston.
Worth every penny, I'll just tell you that.
So I guess to Deanna, regarding I guess looking at all of the millions of pages that comes with the title. And I guess this question may be for Deanna, Chad, or Angel. Is a buyer ever allowed to take that home to read it instead of, okay, this is what this page is, I need for you to initial here. I need for you to initial here. Is that?
Great question. I love this.
Closing document.
In her eyes.
We discourage reading. Just sign. No.
As long as you don't redline them, it's all good, right?
Mhm,
Are you talking about your closing documents specifically?
mhm.
So your closing documents do come from your lender. So Chad, do you send out a?
Yeah, so our closing attorneys, if that's a desire of yours, we can absolutely accommodate that. Absolutely. And we encourage it, right? If you're a detailed person and you want to read everything, way better to do it before closing than at the closing table. The closing becomes just incredibly long. And Lord knows we've, maybe not everybody on this call, but at least 3 of us on this call have been in closings where someone does read every single document very thoroughly and very clearly. And it's very excruciating for everyone. And so, we can absolutely get you that document or those documents early and you can read those.
Okay.
And your lender really should, it depends on what lender you're with, right? So whatever lender you decide to work with, every lender should be able to do that. But more often than not, what happens with a lot of lenders is they're down to the wire and they're getting documents to closing, to the day of closing. And so that's a challenge. But as long as we know about it in advance and that's your desire, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
I think I should add though, if you don't like the terms, they're not editable. They can't be changed. If you don't like the
Yeah.
terms, you're just not buying a house.
What? You can redline them?
Mhm.
No, you can't redline them. I mean, you can mark it up as you can make it as red as you want. No one's going to revise it. But it's very good to read it in advance, and you can.
Okay. And for, I'm sorry, I have one more question. For do any of you guys recommend on a, I guess on a established home, do you recommend getting a home warranty?
Yes, for a couple of reasons. One, in Houston, it's free. Like if you're buying, for the most part, like that sounds weird. It is one of the items that a seller typically pays for in Houston, the first year premiums for the home warranty. So it's already included. If you decide to waive it, they're not going to give you that money for something else usually. Two, if you haven't owned a home before, it's helpful to just have a number you can call right away to deal with those things that you don't know what to do. You know, the dishwasher stops working or the washing machine stops working or the water heater isn't doing what it's supposed to do. And you just don't know what to do. Calling the home warranty, they can actually set you up with the right person. And then you can build your own contractor list over time. We're all going to give you a contractor list, but if you've never owned a home, making those calls and trying to schedule someone can be a little bit overwhelming because they don't all say, yeah, sure, I'm free right now today, you know, so you have to make a bunch of calls. The only time I would say that I don't think it's beneficial, like at all. And I mean, I could see you canceling it after the first year. Like once you get a handle on things, you discover that it's actually probably cheaper to not pay the premium and pay the deductibles every time and deal with the hassle of scheduling the guy to come out and evaluate, come back and fix and all that. But the only time I would say you don't want it at all for the first year even would be if the house is so old that, not so old, if everything in the house that would be covered by that warranty is not warrantable after you get the inspection report. Because the inspection report is a required document for the home warranty company. And if something has a pre-existing defect, they're not going to cover it. Like they're not, you know, you can't walk into a house with a broken dishwasher and then close on it and then get the home warranty to buy you a new dishwasher. They're going to ask for the inspection report. So if everything in the house is already defective and you know that and it's okay and you're still going to buy it like that, maybe because the price is just, you know, it's too right. You can't pass it up. Then I wouldn't go with the home warranty because it's not going to cover anything anyway. You know, you're just going to be wasting your time with phone calls. Travis, do you have an opinion on that as a guy who inspects houses?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the suggestions I do make when I hear about home warranties is that I would not show your cards if you're not asked for them. So I would just not just go and send the report for no reason to your home warranty company. I had a client once a long time ago that he had an older furnace. The furnace was functional. However, I did call out some items that were in need of maintenance or need of repair. And if I remember correctly, lo and behold, he called me back maybe about 6 months or so later saying that he had an issue with the furnace and asked the home warranty company to help out and do their work or whatnot. But he had shared the home inspection report with them. And even though the item that was not functioning currently had nothing to do with what I had called out previously, it was a new issue, they still didn't want to do any of the warranty work because of the other pre-existing items that I had mentioned. So, you know, obviously, if I agree with Angel, it's like, look, if you're buying a home that you understand that, hey, X, Y, or Z are in the shape that they're in, you know, it's probably not beneficial to have one. But yet, if you have a home that's, you know, fairly new, or everything is functional without any issues, at that point it would be beneficial. But yet, I wouldn't just send off the report for no reason. You know, I'd make sure that, I mean, and I don't know the process of, I like to speak on personally on what I have. I'm a homeowner too. So there's things that I've encountered as a homeowner in life when life happens. But I've never had an actual home warranty like that before. So I don't have any personal experience on calling them. I think what I've heard, you know, Angel's probably one of the ones to go to if she has any referrals for home warranties. But it's kind of for me where I've heard 10 different answers on maybe the same company from 10 different people. You know, it's all about who you, maybe a family member trusts, or a good friend trusts, or a realtor trusts that they've had good experience with in the past.
And, on the homeowner side, so the first year, Angel's right. A lot of the time they're going to give you this warranty for free. There are some homeowners coverage. It's called equipment breakdown. It's the exact same thing as a home warranty. That is a smart second, third, fourth year endorsement. Now, when I talk about this stuff with homeowners endorsements, if you're making a claim, it needs to be a smart claim and not a small one. It's not like, oh, my whatever very small system went out. It's like, my HVAC is down. I'm in trouble. Like, get the insurance money. Like, if you're getting an insurance company to pay out, make sure it's going to be worth both people's while. So that's an option. If you choose to non-renew your home warranty after the first year, you can explore possibly getting equipment breakdown. And echoing what was said, just don't show your cards with inspection reports, because I represent my clients, not my insurance companies. You giving an inspection report is, here's every reason for them to deny something. Don't do that. Hold your cards very tight to your chest until it's asked for.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
When I purchased my home, that was the first thing that they asked for from me, like right off the bat. So obviously I would not recommend that home warranty company, but that within a couple of days of the policy going in force, they reached out and said, we'd like a copy of your inspection report to keep your policy in force. But that's it. And if when it comes down to it, I've discovered, like, there's some companies out there that are really great. They do cost more than others. The seller may not cover the whole premium on that, or they might. I've had it go both ways. The deductibles are a little bit higher each month, but they're the ones who I've noticed consistently pay out without trying to find reasons not to. Because if you think about it, a $500 premium that you paid doesn't even cover the cost of a new dishwasher. So like they don't want to replace the dishwasher, you know?
Right.
But they will. It's just a matter of finding the right company. So absolutely. When the time comes, let me know. We'll get you with the right company.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? So far we had some great questions.
Angel, I'm gonna jump in real quick. I had to step out for a minute.
Yeah.
I needed help with one of the kids. Did you guys talk about first-time homebuyer credits and any anticipated first-time homebuyer credits that are coming up?
No, I think that might be a Chad thing.
Chad, do you know anything about it yet?
Well, I know that it may or may not happen. That's what I know. It was one of Biden's one of his big deals that he was going to push for was potentially coming out with a first-time homebuyer tax credit as part of one of his packages. I don't know if it's part of his $2 trillion package or not. I have to assume it's in there something. And I've heard some different things, you know, back after the 2008 crisis. Was it the 2008 crisis when they came out with it? Yeah, they came out. It was $10,000 or $15,000. I mean, it was a big number. And it was done a little bit differently than sort of what they were talking about this time. Back then it was, you bought a house, you filed your tax return, and they just added 10 or 15 grand on your refund. So it was a really nice influx of cash, but you still had to have the money to get into the home. I think they're trying to figure out a way to do it a little differently this time. I don't know what that looks like. And so, you know how it is. It's such a political football. I try not to talk about it too much just because I get nervous. You know, you just never know how it's going to come to fruition. And part of me is wondering too, with the housing market doing so well, I'm like, I don't know that they need to add more buyers to the mix. It would really, I'm not sure what it would do. I have a feeling it would make our job, some of our jobs, certainly make Angel's job more complicated. And you know,
Make
I don't know.
yours too, and it would push up, it would inflate the prices even more.
Yeah,
I mean, it would just be, be setting us up for some type of uncomfortable kind of market shift.
we'll see how they do it. I mean, I'm initially I was super excited about it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. But now it's just with so little inventory, it just makes me a little bit nervous how it'll translate here. But it's out there. Could happen.
Yeah, we will see. We will
Yeah.
see. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah, great. Okay.
First of all, thank you for doing this. This has been great. As this is my first time through the home buying process, it's incredibly daunting. There's way too much information out there to contradict the other sources and everything. So I've made a bunch of notes. That's great. For my particular instance, the first question I have is I'm in a rental right now. As Angel, you would know, you put me here. It expires in August. And so if I want to get out and have a house without any overlapping payments, like how long, what's the timeline for a home buying, an average home buying process?
Okay, remind me, does your lease expire August 31st or like July 31st?
Yeah, it's the end of
Okay,
August 31st.
your best bet at avoiding overlap is going to be to close after June 5th. You'll have overlap in ownership of two properties, you know, the ownership, you know, the right to occupy the rental, and you'll have the right to occupy the house. But you won't, if you close like June 6th or later, you probably won't have a mortgage payment till August 1. Oh, sorry. So we want to close you July 5th or later. You won't have a mortgage payment till September 1, probably. That's typically how that plays out. Chad, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's it. You nailed it.
Okay, great. So they say it takes 30 days to close and 30 days to find the house, generally. Some buyers take longer, some buyers buy the first house, but most people need to shop for 30 days and then it's a 30-day closing process. So if we're targeting a July 5th close, take into account the holiday, so let's say July 7th or 8th, you need to start looking early June. And if you think that it might take you longer, then we can start looking in early May. If you start looking too early, like February or March, you might find yourself buying a house right now and paying rent and a mortgage at the same time for a couple of months. Because Murphy's Law is when you start looking, you will find.
Guaranteed. Can't go window shopping if you don't want to buy.
Go ahead.
So then how about the whole pre-qualification process? Does that all start happening after June, or should that happen a couple months before?
That should happen now. Do that now. Chad?
Yeah, if you've never done it before, do it sooner than later. That way you will know exactly, you'll either A, know you're ready to go when the time comes, or B, you'll know you have things you need to work on before the time comes, and hopefully when the time comes, you'll get a better loan program. So most of my clients who do it early end up getting a better loan when it comes time to actually close on the house. The ones who wait until they buy the house, usually there's something we could have done to have gotten their credit probably in a better spot to have bought a home. And so I always tell people, your worst case scenario is if you do it now, is you walk away knowing you're in great shape. That's your worst case. Best case is we identify some things that are going to get you into a better spot and you get an even better loan program. Yeah.
I bought my house in December of 2017. I called Chad to get pre-approved in January of 2017. There was an 11-month window in there where I was like, let's look at things. And it was important. I had like one debt that I just didn't notice after all these years, and addressing that, you know, changed my credit score by like 60 points and moved me from a good buyer to a great buyer and changed my interest rate. One of my favorite things that Chad says is the ones who are worried about their credit being affected by doing the pre-approval are the ones who don't need to worry about their credit being affected by it.
Most of the time that is the case.
Yeah. Which makes complete sense. Like the ones who are, you know, I mean, the ones that are worried about it, you know, are worried about it for a reason. Like they don't want to impact their credit at all. They want it to be perfect all the time.
And people who ask about credit inquiries are the ones who hardly ever apply for credit. And so usually the credit inquiry is going to impact your credit by a couple of points. It's not usually a big deal. And most of the time, if I check it today and it goes down 2 or 3 points, if I pull it 6 months from now, it's still going to be higher, as long as you're paying your bills on time and doing everything you're supposed to do.
Okay. And on related to that kind of pre-approval, Chad, in terms of where cash is that's going to be used for a down payment, does it matter like how long it's been in a certain account? Like, for example, my planned down payment chunk is currently in my Roth IRA as my principal. So I can grab it whenever I want, without any penalties, whatever, and put it in the right account. Is there a certain timeline for that to happen? It's going to affect any potential qualification now.
No, not at all. As long as the funds are in one of your accounts, we just have to be able to document it. And then if it's in a retirement account, if you do it during the loan process, we just have to show the transfer of the funds. And it's not a big deal. We do it all the time. I just tell people, if you want your loan process, if you want fewer headaches on your side of the equation, the less you move money around during the loan process, the easier it is. But the more you move money between accounts, the more we're going to be like, we need this bank statement. We need an activity printout from this account showing the money moving into this account. And so it's just a lot of printouts and things like that. And we work through it all the time, and it's not a big deal for us, but we know it can be for certain clients. And then there are certain financial institutions, like credit unions, can be a little challenging. Their softwares they don't always print with everything that we need on the printout. So sometimes that can be a challenge, but we always work through it. It's never a showstopper. As long as you're patient with us, we'll be patient with you, and we'll work through it.
Just to jump in, just real quick. Reason why I'm pointing this out is because I recently refinanced with Mr. Chad. And is anybody here self-employed?
No.
That it just brings up a lot of additional items or questions.
Oh, that's right. Travis can relate to that headache. Yes. And I will tell you, COVID has made that even more challenging for self-employed borrowers, but we don't have that here, so we're good.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm set.
Okay, awesome. Leah, do you have any additional questions? Any follow-ups?
I'm sorry. What's your name that does the inspection?
Right here.
Travis.
Travis.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any of your clients, crawl around in spaces with you during the inspection?
Typically it's either a father or father-in-law. For me, I get asked all the time if my client can, attend the inspection, and I've never told anybody flat out no. What I have encouraged is the fact that I've learned that I'm kind of boring during the inspection. I've got a lot to focus on. I'm taking my notes, I'm taking my pictures. I've got kind of a rhyme and reason of moving about the house in a certain manner to where, and also I'm long-winded. So if I get to chatting, I don't want to miss something on accident because I've got kind of, scattered around a little bit. So I usually, like I said, will give my client about a 45-minute phone call before I'm done. That way they can head over to the home and I'm finishing up. And then once I'm done with the inspection, I'm all yours. I'm all available for walking you around what I saw, what I'm going to be putting in the report, talking about priorities versus what's to be expected if it's a resale home, answering questions that you may have, things of that nature. So again, it's never a flat out no. It's just it's kind of an encouragement to say, look, I'm there. I'm there. I've got to focus. I want to do what I need to do and not forget an oven on or forget a water running somewhere. And so, but also too, some of my clients, it's another opportunity for you to see the home. So even if you wanted to get there an hour before I'm done, sometimes, I encourage that. I have a measuring tape a lot of times that my clients might use to take some measurements of some spaces and things of that nature. So.
Okay.
But if you want to come and crawl around in a crawl space with them, yeah. We can get you suited up and get you in there, get you a flashlight. So
I may, and considering how detailed you're going to be, I might have your loan documents there for you. So while in between scroll spaces, you can read your loan docs, and we'll get you all the details you want.
You
Just
all are,
err on
you
the side of
all are
caution.
seeing what, that's scary, because you all are seeing what type of person I am already based off of the questions I'm asking.
well, for me, personally, I always encourage questions, for my clients. I'm sure everybody here does the same thing. I would much rather you call me and ask me and let's talk about it. Let's clarify it. Let's get it all out there instead of just assuming one way or the other and then being wrong, so to speak. So my clients, one of the things I always finish up with the inspection is just making sure they understand, number one, don't get sticker shock by the amount of pages that you're going to see, because I'm going to include lots of pictures. And then also too, call me if you have any questions. So, and a lot of my clients will email me a month later saying, hey, I remember you telling me this, but I forgot. And they call me and we get it taken care of. So that's the one thing that I try and focus on is customer service after the inspection as well. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem, man.
Okay. Any more questions?
Thank you.
guys can
No,
ask the
thank
questions
you.
that you need to. What I will do tomorrow is make sure to send out just an introduction, because there's just two groups of you on the call. So I'll send an email out to Nick and Myrna and an email out to Leah, and I'll CC everybody else, just so if you have questions that come to mind tonight or tomorrow morning, you can reach out to those people directly, and you don't have to, wait for me to get back to you with whatever their answer is or whatever. So I'll connect everyone. That way, if you do have questions or concerns, you can get them addressed.
And just real quick, Angel, sorry. I'm sure everybody here, we've all got websites and all that good stuff and information on there. For me, I've got sample reports. So I think that's one of the key things to kind of look at if you've never been through an inspection before, never had an inspection, you can go to southernstarinspections.com, sample reports, but you can try and kind of just see in general what's inspected, what's not, how it's put forward to the client, pictures and all that good stuff. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
I'm going to attach this last. I need to, Deanna attached something, so I'm going to attach that. She sent it to me and I forgot to attach it. I'm going to attach it in the chat real quick so you guys can access it before you sign off. I'll include it in the email tomorrow too, just in case. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate everyone that spoke, everyone that attended, all the great questions. And I hope that everyone has an amazing 2021.
Yes.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Angel.
Yes.
Thanks, Angel.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Thank you again.
Bye, all.
See you, Chad.
What's
See you,
up?
Chad.
See you, brother.
Thanks for the Zoom meeting invite. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, and go enjoy your family time.
All right. See y'all later.
Angel,
Bye.
is there anything? I guess I'll figure out the recording thing and try to send that to you.
I think it'll shoot out an email.
Oh, will?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't need to worry about it till tomorrow. Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. So
Okay.
enjoy your
We'll figure it
We'll
out.
worry about it tomorrow.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.